when Osama bin Laden declared war on the United States, did he have a position in your view of the law that protected him from assassination under the anti-assassination provisions of our laws and regulations?
I have not opined on that, and I would have to look at all the facts at the time of the fatwa to know.
That's preliminary to a number of reservations or even complaints that we have heard directly or indirectly from people in the CIA, that your office counseled the White House against any memorandum of notification which unambiguously allowed for the CIA simply to kill or to eliminate Osama bin Laden, and that contributed to the fact that all of its plans inside of Afghanistan failed to come to fruition or were never ordered into execution. Can you comment on that? Did the CIA, or did anyone in the White House ask your view as to whether that phrase could be unambiguous, and did you answer that question in the negative?
I was not asked whether they could assassinate him. I was asked whether they could capture and follow through.
Okay, you were only asked if they could capture him or perhaps kill him in an attempt to escape or to resist that. You were never asked the question as to whether or not he could be killed unambiguously?
I need, Mr. Chairman, some direction. I don't know what the Commission has done in terms of the declassification of these issues, and I want to be able to answer the question.
Madam Attorney General, I think if there's any doubt in your mind, we should probably talk with you about it privately rather than publicly, particularly on this subject, which is a very sensitive one.
I'm happy to do anything that will forward the issue, and so if
we'll submit that question then to you in a closed session. You've heard Director Free speak of his relationships through you with the White House on these security issues. Would you characterize for me whether you felt that the President and the White House and the National Security Council felt any inhibitions about relationships, questions to, or answers from the Federal Bureau of Investigation while you were Attorney General, by reason of the history of the sometime misuse of the FBI by, in previous administrations? Or was the communication free and open as far as you were concerned during the whole Clinton administration?
I think when Tony Lake was National Security Advisor, he came to the Department of Justice, and we discussed the exchange of information and the necessity to keep the National Security Advisor informed. There was concern because these were criminal cases, and I think the Bureau had some concerns, but I said in any instance in which any investigation or any effort that the FBI was undertaking had an effect on national security, some of the top people in the National Security Council would be advised. We were supposed to reduce that to writing. It never got reduced to writing, but it was always the governing principle that I had. It didn't get reduced to writing because people were concerned about the independence of the FBI and couldn't get the language straight, but I think the communication developed there.
In fact, the relationship worked as far as you were concerned, openly and freely.
there would be complaints made, and that's the reason during the last year and a half, I went to a situation where we had regular meetings between Director Free and Sandy Berger and myself.
And did you feel that your communication, your lines of communication with Director Free were free and open, and that you always got the information from him that you needed?
I had the working relationship with Director Free where I could call him and say, may I come see you and see exactly what's going on? Can we sit down and talk about it? And I always felt that I got a very straight answer and had a good working relationship with him.
One of the factual findings of our staff for this meeting here today says that you had already told us in private sessions that you were very concerned about the Bureau's information sharing and intelligence capabilities. And the staff statement goes on to say, in 2000, Reno sent several memoranda to Director Free expressing these concerns. One memo stated that, quote, it is imperative that the FBI immediately develop the capacity to fully assimilate and utilize intelligence information currently collected and contained in FBI files and use that knowledge to work proactively to identify and protect against emerging national security threats, end quote. Reno's requirements involved improved information sharing, improved counterterrorism training, a threat assessment, and a strategy to counter that threat. And then it goes on to say, it is not clear what actions the FBI took in response to these directives from the Attorney General. Is it clear to you? Did the FBI respond positively to that direction?
What I think had happened, and I'm not sure exactly of the time frame on it, Senator, but what I think happened in the chronology is that Bob Bryant had started earlier to look at some of these issues with respect to how we organized and how we managed the information and how we assigned priorities and how we assigned tasks and how we made sure that we filled the gaps with respect to intelligence information. When Bob Bryant left, Dale Watson pursued this and continued to try. I think both men made real progress, and I think that much of what I hope has been done in the Bureau has built on that progress. That's what I was trying to get at. I sent the memo, and along with other memos at about the same time, to make sure that we were absolutely on the same wavelength, because there had been, for example, I kept finding evidence that we didn't have, didn't know we had. And I would talk to somebody and they'd say, well, just wait till we get automated. I said, how do you know what you're going to automate unless you find it now? You're going to have to find it now, so let's start and get ready to go. And it was a push in that direction. I think this is going to be, when it's finally totally implemented, it's going to be a tremendous tool for the Bureau. It probably is now, I don't know. But that was my reasoning.
So this was a long-range direction going well beyond the end of your term as Attorney General, but you think progress was being made as a result of that memorandum?
I don't know whether it was as a result of the memorandum. They may say they were already doing it, but I did it to push it, and then when the Attorney General invited me to have lunch with him after he was sworn in, I came up to Washington and we sat down and talked about issues that I thought were important, and I gave him a set of the memos.
Now, I'd like, as my last question, to have it very open-ended and to get for us the benefit of your wisdom from 8 years as Attorney General and much deep thought on this subject with respect to the Patriot Act. On page 4 of your written testimony, for example, you say, we continued to seek additional authorities such as pen register authority under FISA, which we were not able to get passed during my tenure, but that ultimately became a part of the Patriot Act. And Ms. Gorelick tells me you also asked for legislation lowering the FISA bar with respect to intelligence sharing. Your reflection now, after several years, just in general terms, on the Patriot Act, did it go too far? Did it not go far enough? Are some of the provisions, are there some of its provisions about which you have reservations and would not like to see renewed? And are there elements related to our national security that weren't included in it that you would recommend that Congress adopt when it deals with the renewal of the Patriot Act?
I have been asked about the Patriot Act, and I've always said that the Patriot Act was kind of the umbrella that everything that everybody saw happen after 9/11 that they didn't like, it fell under, but that generally everything that's been done in the Patriot Act has been helpful, I think, while at the same time maintaining the balance with respect to civil liberties, except with respect to one matter. And there has been so much discussion about it. One of the things that I hope we might be able to do is to build on what the Commission does and have an opportunity to sit down in a thoughtful, nonpartisan way and talk about the details of the Patriot Act so that people will have a better understanding of them. But one issue is with respect to FISA searches. I don't have all the details with me, but that would be one area that I would like to learn more about in terms of the administration's perspective. And it just seems to me a wonderful time when we could stop for a minute and say, this is national security, this is where America should come together, this is how we should sit down, and let's address these issues and see if we can come up with a consensus that will have the confidence of the nation.
So of all of the provisions of the Act, the one that you believe requires the most discussion and concern without having a specific position is those search authorities?
Yes.
Now, are there things that you think would be helpful in promoting our national security that weren't included in the original Patriot Act that you would recommend in any successor act?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
In other words, it covered all your wish list and more?
Where I think we've got to go, it's important to cover the wish list, but where we've got to go is making sure we use our experience to make the system work. It's not going to be resources, it's not going to be legislation necessary, it's not going to be legal authorities, it's going to be people sitting down and starting to exchange information, starting to share, starting to trust each other, starting to end the culture that said, this is mine, I've got to keep it to me because it's my case.
With respect to the way in which we deal with intelligence activities inside the United States for national security, do you believe that the FBI is the proper agency for that, or that it should be separated from the agency and handled in a different fashion?
I have seen the FBI do absolutely wonderful work, and I think if we can address the issues that I talked about in terms of resolving confusions, addressing points that need resolution, I think the FBI can do a wonderful job for this country.
From your observation with me outside, do you think Director Mueller is moving in that direction?
I think he is. I have a great respect for him, and I think we should all back him up and help him get the job done.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.